Hi, I'm Joel.
And I'm Phil, and we're the co-hosts of Florida Men, a true crime comedy podcast.
Each week on Florida Men, we bring you stories from the shady side of the Sunshine State, starring America's most prolific criminal, Florida Man.
Stories with headlines like
Florida Man carrying live alligator chases people in a convenience store.
And Florida Woman calls 911 on a possum.
You can find Florida Men on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Hi, we're the Grave Girls from Grave Girls Podcast. I'm your host, Hawthorne.
And I'm Amaryllis. Every week we watch a different horror film, and I find a scary story that goes with it that will definitely leave you shaking in your boots.
And if you aren't wearing boots, my true crime case and murder will scare the pants off you.
And then you'll just be naked, and that's just a fun time.
So listen to us on SoundCloud and iTunes.
And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Don't forget to check out our website at grave-girls.com.
We love you all in case we die.
Bye!
On July 19th, 2016, University of Toledo student Sierah Joughin would set off on a bike ride with her boyfriend, Josh, in her hometown of Metamora, Ohio. Little did she know, she would never return home from that bike ride. This is Great Lakes True Crime. Before we begin, we have one small favor to ask each listener. If you like the show, please follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @GreatLakesCrime. Or if you just search for Great Lakes True Crime, you'll find us. We don't want any money, just a Twitter follow. Thank you. Episode 7. Sierah Joughin, known as C to family and friends, was born on February 11th, 1996, in the Toledo suburb of Sylvania, Ohio. She graduated from the rural Evergreen High School in Metamora, which is located in northwest Ohio's Fulton County. In the 2010 census, Metamora had a population of just 627 people. We're talking very small town, rural Ohio here. According to her obituary, Sierra was about to enter her junior year at the University of Toledo, where she was a member of the business fraternity Alpha Kappa Psi. She loved to play volleyball, playing throughout high school, and even playing intramural volleyball at UT. At the time of her disappearance, Sierra was a human resources intern at a local corporation, where she planned to work after graduation. Friends and family have talked about Sierra's tremendous sense of humor. She also loved to travel, having traveled extensively throughout Italy, and she loved horses. On that warm July 2016 night, Sierra and her boyfriend Josh went on a bike ride together, sort of. Sierra rode her bluish-purple bicycle on the rural country roads near her home, decked out in a neon yellow shirt, bright teal shoes with neon yellow laces, while Josh accompanied her for part of the ride on his motorcycle, before departing and leaving her to finish the ride on her own. It was the last time Josh, or any friend or family member, would see Sierra alive, as she never returned home that night. Understandably very concerned, her mother Sheila contacted police when she didn't turn up that night. For the next few days, family, friends, the police, and hundreds of community members would search high and low for Sierra. Posters were distributed throughout the area asking for information on her whereabouts. Sierra's bike was found abandoned in a cornfield, but there were no signs of Sierra herself, only other items that didn't belong to her, including a pair of men's sunglasses, a screwdriver, and a fuse box. Sierra's remains would ultimately be found 3 days after her disappearance in a 6-foot grave in a cornfield near where she had been riding her bicycle. According to the autopsy report, Sierra had been hogtied, with her wrists handcuffed behind her back and her ankles tied together with rope. She was not sexually assaulted, but suffocated over a period of up to 10 minutes from a large plastic bag being forced into her mouth. The autopsy report also indicated that Sierra had a laceration on her forehead, a broken upper left incisor in her mouth, and a hairline fracture on the inside of her skull. During the time that the search for Sierra was underway, a motorcycle helmet was found and taken by Troy Vandenbush near what he would later learn was the scene of the abduction. The Jasper, Michigan farmer, who farms in Fulton County, brought the helmet to the county's authorities the following day after he heard about Sierra's disappearance. The helmet had Sierra's blood on it, as well as DNA belonging to a man who lived nearby. After an examination of the DNA found at the scene, police quickly identified a suspect. In many cases such as these, the boyfriend or husband of the victim is looked at as a person of interest, but that was never the case for Sierra's boyfriend, Josh. He was never looked at with any suspicion. Rather, on Friday, July 22, 2016, which was 3 days after Sierra's disappearance, and the same day her remains were discovered in that shallow grave, 57-year-old James Dean Worley was arrested at his home on County Road 6 in Delta, Ohio. His home was approximately 1 mile from where Sierra had disappeared. Law enforcement from the local, state, and federal levels descended on Worley's property after his arrest on July 22nd. They searched the secluded property, which is largely blocked from view by thick woods and crops, and they used excavators, a dive team, and searched by foot. The property contained a number of structures on it, all of which were searched, including the house, garage, barn, trailer, vehicles, and a pond. In their search of Worley's property, authorities found several pairs of women's undergarments, one of which contained fresh blood. Worley also told investigators that he had hidden cameras all over his property, and police did recover at least one nanny cam in their search. Multiple video and still image recording devices and film were collected, though their contents have never been released. A green crate discovered on the property was found to contain a number of suspicious items, including lingerie, women's panties, bondage-type restraints, other sex paraphernalia, adult diapers, zip ties, and duct tape. Investigators also found rope, handcuffs, jewelry, several firearms, and a lot of ammunition on the property. Local media obtained copies of the search warrants, which describe Worley's statements and actions during the time that Sierra was missing. According to the warrants, information from his mobile phone showed that Worley was at the scene of the abduction for nearly 2 hours during the time she was missing. That's pretty damning evidence on top of everything else that was uncovered in the search. When questioned by investigators, Worley told them that he, quote, didn't steal anything or kill anyone, closed quote. But he did have fresh marks on his arms and bruises on his lower legs. Cheek and hand swabs were taken from Worley at that time. But the search of Worley's property uncovered something even more disturbing. Investigators found a hidden room containing restraints and a freezer with blood on the inside of it. They found the hidden room was concealed by hay bales inside his barn, and it contained a carpet-lined freezer and restraints for holding people against their will. It was secured from the outside by a ratchet strap. Police first spoke to Worley during a canvass of nearby houses while Sierra was missing. He told them that he had been riding his motorcycle in the area where she was last seen, but his motorcycle broke down. He said he pushed the motorcycle in the field and lost his helmet, screwdriver, sunglasses, and fuses at the location. Okay. Those items that he mentioned were recovered at the scene where Sierra's bicycle was discovered. Again, that helmet recovered on the scene had blood on it. Worley also told authorities that he had come across 2 bikes near the scene. He picked one up, and that his fingerprints would likely be on the bike. Only one bike was ever located by the sheriff's department, which was Sierra's. After being taken into custody, Worley was initially held without bond at the Corrections Center of Northwest Ohio, which is a regional jail serving Defiance, Fulton, Henry, Lucas, and Williams counties. It didn't take long for police to suspect that Worley had something to do with Sierra's abduction, even before they searched his property. You see, Worley had done this sort of thing before. Back in the summer of 1990, 26 years before Sierra's abduction, Robin Gardner was a 26-year-old living in nearby White House, Ohio. On a hot and humid July 4th holiday, she decided to go on a bike ride from her home to the Oak Openings Preserve Metro Park in Lucas County. That bike ride would come to an abrupt end when James Worley forced her off the road and dragged her to his truck. He was later found guilty of abduction in the Lucas County Common Pleas Court and would eventually serve only about 3 years in prison for that offense. It's the same method he used in Sierra's abduction, ramming her bike with his vehicle and then abducting her as she lay injured on the road. During that attack on Robin, as she struggled with the 6'2" Worley, Robin thought of everything she hadn't done yet in her life. She hadn't gotten married, she had no kids yet. In short, she really hadn't begun her adult life. It made her so angry that she fought tooth and nail. She almost passed out from fighting so hard. She really wanted to live. Worley forced her into his truck and slapped handcuffs on one wrist. She screamed, she fought, she tried to stall him, anything she could think of. When she saw a motorcyclist drive by, she said she was sure to flail her body, hoping the biker would notice something odd happening inside Worley's truck. When he let go of her, Robin slid across the seat and jumped out the door. She ran straight to the motorcyclist, who had stopped a little further up the road. She jumped on the bike and told him she needed help. Well, that helpful stranger on the motorcycle took Robin to her home, where her mom was busy making potato salad for a 4th of July picnic. An exhausted Robin fell to the floor, hyperventilating. The police were called and an ambulance arrived. Robin was loaded into the ambulance, but before being taken to the hospital, she was taken to the scene of the crime. And remarkably, Worley, in his infinite wisdom, was still there on the side of the road. Later, he would claim that he had argued with Robin about who was at fault in the collision. In a long, typewritten first-person document that Worley filed with the court in an attempt to get out of prison early, Worley maintained that Robin had veered out on her bike and turned in front of his truck, which he used to run a lawn service, and that she immediately accused him of intentionally hitting her. Worley said that when Robin tried to leave, he grabbed her arm and handcuffed her wrists. That's perfectly normal, right? Everyone's got a pair of handcuffs in their truck. He wrote, "All I wanted to do was attach her to something stationary so as to prevent her from leaving until the police or someone else arrived." Now let me pause here to take a couple moments to talk about Worley. First, he seems really bad at covering his tracks when committing crimes. Second, he seems really bad at lying. Nobody believes a word he says. Anyway, he would later argue that his decision to remain at the crime scene demonstrated his innocence. In his court filing, he recounted how after the incident, an ambulance arrived and an officer grabbed him by the neck and shoved him toward the emergency vehicle's open hatch. Worley stated that when the ambulance arrived, Robin was tilted up as she lied in the ambulance so she could see Worley through the window and identify him. She yelled, "That's him." Robin also recalls the experience. Someone tilted her stretcher so that, despite wearing a neck brace, she was face-to-face and eye-to-eye with the man that had just abducted her. Worley, who old court records indicate admitted to extensive marijuana use and sales as a young teen and adult, served prison time for the abduction from November 1990 to December 1993. Robin suffered a concussion, skull fracture, bruises, and cuts, according to court records. The turmoil left other lasting wounds. She said, "I have scars for sure the rest of my life, and I just don't want him on the streets again. He's not a good person." Well, that's an understatement, and I give her credit for the restrained language she uses when discussing Worley. When prosecutors asked her how she wanted the case to be resolved, she said she had a very swift reply for them. She said, "An eye for an eye." She said she still wants that kind of justice. The 3 years he spent in prison were too short, nothing compared to the lifelong physical and mental suffering she continues to endure. Robin said, "I can't go bird watching, I can't go hiking, and I love to be in the woods alone, and I can't. He stole that from me." Still, Robin has not let the crime destroy her. In fact, she's largely moved on with her life. She treats the July 4th holiday more like a birthday than the actual day she was born. "I remember thinking," she said, "I have a choice right now to be a victim or a survivor, and if I choose to be a victim and hate men and fear men and be scared of life and be scared of living my life, then I'm giving him all the power." But Worley's arrest in the Sierra Joughin case certainly did not surprise her. Worley's trial in the Sierra case began in March of this year in the Fulton County Common Pleas Court. 12 jury members and 6 alternates were selected for the trial. In his opening statements, Fulton County prosecutor Scott Hazelman told the jurors that Fulton County Deputy Sheriff Jeremy Simon initially searched for Joughin in the late hours of July 19, 2016, just shortly after she was reported missing during a bike ride. Simon found Sierra's sunglasses and bicycle in a cornfield just off County Road 6. He also retrieved a green sock, identified as one Sierra had been wearing, earphones, and a towel. Reddish-brown stains were observed on nearby corn stalks, and they were determined to be blood mixed with DNA from both Sierra and Worley. Lawrence Kreis, a longtime friend of Worley, testified at the trial that he smoked pot and watched porn with the defendant at his home. Lawrence said he had known Worley for 35 years and once or twice a month visited his friend's home. He said the pair smoked marijuana every time he visited, usually in the machine shop located in the north barn on the property. Worley wouldn't smoke pot in his house because he took care of his elderly mother there, well, except for the times when he was abducting women. Lawrence also told the courtroom that Worley mentioned his plan to build a pornography studio in the north barn on his property. He said that he and Worley sometimes watched porn when he visited and that it varied in type, including bondage videos. Sometimes Worley would show Lawrence sex-related items he kept, such as packaged lingerie, a ball gag, and a leather mask. Related testimony revealed that a search of the hard drive on Worley's computer showed that, unsurprisingly, he had searched for pornography websites of a violent nature. With the Toledo police detective and the computer forensic analyst on the stand, the prosecutor led the jurors through a long list of internet porn searches police had recovered from the hard drive of Worley's computer. With few exceptions, most of the searches were conducted from a porn site called xvideos.com between September 2015 and July 2016. Jurors were told that many of these searches used tag words such as hogtied, forced, gag, stranded, raped, violent, helpless, and hitchhiker. All were under the username Jim and were password protected. The computer search also revealed that Worley searched over 24 porn sites on the day that Sierra went missing, many just a few hours before her abduction. Another witness at Worley's trial was Deputy Lucas County Coroner Dr. Cynthia Beiser. Before her testimony, Judge Jeffrey Robinson made sure to let family members of Sierra know that Dr. Beiser would be delving into some pretty gruesome details. She addressed a head wound on Sierra's forehead and a skull fracture to the back of her head, but those did not contribute to her death. According to the coroner, Sierra died of asphyxiation. The gag in her mouth was so large it cut off her nasal passageway. Although the trial lasted almost 4 weeks, the jury of 8 women and 4 men deliberated less than 6 hours to reach a unanimous verdict on all 17 counts, including aggravated murder, kidnapping, felonious assault, and a host of other offenses. After reaching their verdict, the jury had one more decision to make as Judge Robinson asked for a sentencing recommendation. They had their choice of 2 sentences to recommend to the judge. One was life in prison without the possibility of parole, and the other was death. They recommended the death sentence. The sentencing hearing took place in April of 2018. Before delivering his decision to the court, Judge Robinson told Worley, quote, "If I thought there was a snowball's chance in hell that you were innocent, you'd be looking at life." Closed quote. James Worley was sentenced to death. Today, Worley is prisoner number A743593 and awaits his fate while residing in Ohio's Chillicothe Correctional Institution, which is a medium-security prison located south of Columbus along the Scioto River. The facility was formerly a federal penitentiary and has housed several high-profile prisoners, including Charles Manson and serial killer Anthony Sowell, who still resides there and is also on death row. Country music legend Johnny Paycheck served time at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution for shooting a man in a Hillsboro, Ohio bar. During Paycheck's time there, his friend and fellow musician Merle Haggard performed there for the inmates. Aside from the criminal proceedings, Sierra's family filed a wrongful death civil suit against Worley and settled that suit this past July. The settlement calls for Sierra's mother, Sheila, to acquire ownership of Worley's real estate in rural Delta, Ohio. In an interview with the Toledo Blade, Sheila stated that she had not stepped foot onto the property, but once she renovates the structures or tears them down, she intends to sell the land so better memories can be created there. She definitely plans to have the barn torn down, saying, quote, "For me, it's just mainly getting the barn down and then hopefully putting some new life into the property, and somebody will have a happy life on it and do wonderful things with it." Close quote. The settlement also calls for Sierra's estate to be awarded $3.6 million in the event Worley receives a windfall sum of money such as winning the lottery or receiving book or movie rights or royalties related to his story. But I don't think they're counting on that money. Family members filed the wrongful death lawsuit against Worley in April 2017, declaring their intention to destroy the reminder of their daughter's death. And that's the tragic story of Sierah Joughin. If you want more details on this case, another podcast, The Minds of Madness, recently released an excellent episode about Sierra. The episode includes interviews and never-before-revealed information. I highly recommend you check it out. But the story may not end there, however. With Worley's 2 convictions for kidnapping young women and having what has been described as a secret torture chamber on his property, questions have been raised as to whether he may have attacked other young women in the area. On October 25, 1985, 14-year-old Lori Ann Hill was abducted in nearby Swanton, Ohio, while walking home from a post-football game rally. Lori Ann's sister, Rachel, believes that Worley may have been her sister's killer. Her suspicions arose after she saw him at his first arraignment in Fulton County back in 2016. She said the evil that oozed out of him, the blood-stained hands, and the fact that he wrote with his left hand. Rachel said she was told years ago that her sister's killer was left-handed. Whether any connections will be made between Worley and other victims remains to be seen. We'll keep you updated on any new information that may come to light in this case. You've been listening to Great Lakes True Crime, written and hosted by me, Steve, from Great Lakes True Crime. The theme song and all other music is by Kai Engel. I recommend you check him out. He's a great composer from Russia. Thanks to our friends, the Florida Men Podcast and Grave Girls, for providing promos for this episode. If you like Great Lakes True Crime, please give us a positive review. And thanks for listening, guys.